Hi, I'm Thomas. As Glenn has helpfully introduced, I'm a data analytics instructor here at Firebrand. I cover all the courses that form part of the Data Analyst Apprenticeship. Those are going to be the sort of primary focus of what I'm going to be talking about today. And yeah, I'll discuss a few things around it where you can go with a data analyst apprenticeship under your belt and just, the great world of data that is out there at the moment. So first things first, I should introduce myself, right? You might be wondering who I am, who I actually am. I have a little biography slide with who I am. For those of you trying to place my accent, I'm Scottish, right? You're just gonna have to believe it, I'm Scottish. I'm from Scotland, English parents, so the accent's a bit sort of so-so. But anyway, in Scotland I was born and raised. I then went to university in Glasgow and did a maths degree, which I don't know, did that put me on a path? That put me on some kind of path of sort of analytical thinking and thinking about problems that definitely well suited me to sort of the world of data analysis. However, I came out of that and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my maths degree. Seemed like everyone was going into finance and I don't know, defense, all these sorts of things, and I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do with it. I didn't feel like I wanted to be a mathematician, so I went and I did a master's in computer science, also in Glasgow. And that's when I kind of came into contact with the ability to apply mathematics beyond just like on paper, right? You don't get many degrees anymore that you do most of your work on paper. Maths is one of them, paper and chalkboards. But yes, computer science allowed me to sort of apply all this logic. I realized I didn't want to be specifically a sort of a developer, a web developer kind of person. I wanted to go somewhere that allowed me to combine my love of mathematics, which I still have to this day, my love of statistics, with physical implementations of them. And that's what I found in my computer science degree, right? I did a dissertation around machine learning and statistical analysis of internet data, broadly speaking. And that's when I first sort of clocked, oh, I can combine some of my passions here and have quite a lot of fun doing it. And that's what I did. So I then went into working as an analytics consultant, and I did that in a medical technology company up in Glasgow, focusing on sort of healthcare analytics. Following that, I don't know, I quite like standing up in front of people and teaching things. So I moved and I decided to become a trainer, a data science trainer. And I did that at another company where as a data science trainer, I covered the data science curriculum, statistics, machine learning, big data, Python, R, Scala, all the sort of relevant things within the domain. I was teaching and having a lot of fun doing it. And then, oh goodness me, how long ago now? About 8 months ago, I moved to Firebrand as 8 months, not 8 months. 6 months. About 6 months ago, I moved to Firebrand as a data analytics instructor and took over all the sort of data analysis curriculum, as well as some of the analytics courses that we run, right? So that's my background. That's why I'm in front of you. So first question that I'm going to, throw out and answer myself is that of what is data analysis? What is data analysis? Why is it relevant? Well, data analysis is thinking about problems and answering them with more than just gut instinct, right? And there's a lot that goes into doing that, right? The vast majority of skills that you can come out with as a data analyst are just in support of that very simple thing, right? Having a problem and finding a way to solve that problem using data, right? That's what I mean when I say not just using gut instinct, right? I have a definition I pulled from somewhere here of what data analysis is, right? It's a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling data with the goal of discovering useful information, informing conclusions, and supporting decision-making, right? I.e., it's a lot of, I don't want to call it faff, fun faff, a lot of faff to allow us to make decisions well, okay? And in the world that we currently live in, there is such a glut of data out there that there are quite a lot. In fact, there are a lot of questions that you can answer in this way, okay? And data analysts are required in pretty much every sector now, okay? So this is what data analysis is, right? Solving problems. It's solving problems. And the data analyst apprenticeship is there to make you good at being able to solve those problems and giving you a great set of skills to do so, right? So if that's what analysis is, what makes a good data analyst is the next question I'm going to ask. What makes a good analyst? I have a set of features of a good data analyst, right? And then I'm probably going to throw them all out at the end of the slide and say, look, anyone, almost anyone can be a data analyst, right? A good data analyst is typically someone who can quantitatively comfortable, right? Can think about numbers and doesn't get scared, right? I think too many people are scared about numbers. Math is a wonderful, beautiful thing, right? And it's more about letters than it is about numbers anyway. People who kind of accept that and can work with them, fantastic analysts. But of course, this is something that can be learned, and you will learn on your analyst apprenticeship. Technically competent, can do the code and stuff, right? Can do the code and stuff. Can basically take data from somewhere and manipulate it using some language, some tool, it could be Excel, it could be MATLAB, it could be anything, right? It really could be anything. But can, use a computer to obtain some results from your data. Again, something that can be learned, something that everyone has to learn at some point. I had to learn that at some point, right? And I now very much enjoy doing it, right? I would say, to be quite honest, these first two things are the main things you have to learn. Everything else is kind of are characteristics of a certain kind of people, right? So I like that the skeptical mindset is something I think is particularly important for a data analyst. Someone who just asks why. How do you know that? What? Can you prove that? Just thinking about any problem, right? Oh, I think this is going to improve sales. Why do you think that? Back it up. Tell me why you think that's going to improve sales. People who ask these sorts of questions make fantastic analysts, right? And indeed can go on to be fantastic data scientists. Critical thinkers, right? Taking a problem, breaking it down into little parts, seeing what changes what, twisting dials, seeing how that influences the outcome. These are people who make great data analysts. Again, these are skills you learn the more you work. People who are curious, right? This is something that you see in most descriptions of analysts, analytics people, data scientists, right? People who want to find a solution to the problems, right? Instead of having to, I don't know, drag yourself out of bed in the morning, sit in front of a desk and say, oh, goodness me, I've got to try and solve this problem again. You want to solve the problem. You want to find answers. You want to explore that avenue that you've just that's just sort of popped into your head that you weren't sure whether you aren't sure whether it's going to influence the outcome, right? You want to do that kind of work, right? These people who are motivated, who like to think about problems, also make great data analysts. What else do we have? We have creative people. There are so many people who go on to be data analysts, and many people who I've come across in my time working in this area who have come from non-technical backgrounds, right? The sort of creative types often make fantastic analysts, because it's not just about the sort of math side of things. You also have to be able to think about how you can visualize something effectively, how you can communicate. People are good at communicating, right? Creative, communicative. You have to be able to think about how you can convey what you have found, right? Which is a non-technical skill. And then we also have, what else do we have? We have people who are collaborative, right? Being able to work in a team. Data analysts are not islands, or at least they shouldn't be. If you like working with other people, data analysis is a fantastic role to get yourself into. Okay, so there's quite a lot of things up here, right? But I think a lot of people would say they have at least a few of these, and I would argue everyone can learn to be more comfortable with numbers and competent with something technical, right? Though I came from a mathsy background, I see maths as a language, and therefore when I came to learn something like programming, it was just like learning another language, right? They are languages, they are ways of expressing concepts, right? They aren't all ones and zeros and things like that, right? So in my opinion, if you're remotely interested in solving problems, you can learn the majority of these, the vast majority of these, right? So that's sort of a bit of, I suppose, scene setting of the kind of people and the kind of work people tend to do, right? I'm now going to speak about what we cover in the Data Analyst Apprenticeship, both from the perspective of the sort of the webinars that we do and the courses, and I'll explain the difference between those in a second, right? So I have what will you learn? So Firebrand is fantastic when it comes to these apprenticeships because we have interactive webinars with our coaches covering concepts you are either going to come across or that aren't sort of specifically covered in the courses that you take, right? And you will have these in the lead up to these sort of courses, the bulk of the, where the bulk of the learning takes place, right? So you get contact with multiple people through that, myself as an instructor often, or, you know, one of the other data instructors, as well as our data coaches, who, and this helps to give you a very rounded perspective and a number of sort of different points of contact where you can learn the skills that data analysts need to learn, right? So what you will learn, you will have an initial set of webinars, first being introduction, right? Introduction to data analysis. You may have had this in your workplace, right? Because of course, as an apprentice, you're going to be working throughout and building up that bank of experience and a portfolio and all these fantastic things, as well as getting access to the education that we provide here at Firebrand. But your initial webinars are an introduction to analysis, right? Which just speaks about what data analysis is, essentially a little bit of what I've done just here. What makes good analysis, what makes bad analysis, the kind of tasks you're going to be doing, right? Setting the scene, right? Getting an idea of what you're going to be doing over the next, I think it's 16 months. You then get a webinar about report writing and visualization, right? Key skills that analysts must have, the ability to communicate, right? Communicate via words, communicate via visual tools. It's all communication, right? And you then have one covering things like the mock exam. So this is what you'll get in the lead up to our first course, our first 5-day course. And it's just getting you ready for that first bulk bit of learning, right? And the first bulk bit of learning comes in the form of the data analysis concepts course, right? I've been teaching, goodness me, I've taught quite a few of these so far this year, right? It's a great course which introduces you to all the things that data analysts should know from a theoretical side. We then go on to have a sort of a more practical tools-based side where you're going to be using things like Excel and SQL and Python and R to solve problems. And then towards the end of the apprenticeship, you get to touch on the data science course, right, which is data science, right? So as a data analyst in the apprenticeship here at Firebrand, you get to do a data science course and get a data science qualification, which is fantastic, right? But anyway, the data analysis concepts course, what do we speak about? We talk about all the different types of data there are, right? Because there's a lot of different types of data, right? This is in terms of types of variables, types of data source, allowable use for data, structure of data, all these sorts of things, right? Come up in our types of data. We speak about the data lifecycle, right? The fact that data is created and destroyed and all the various things that happen in between it and what the analyst needs to know about those. We talk about the difference between structured and unstructured data and common structured and unstructured data sources, which are increasingly relevant in today's analytic landscape. We talk about the requirements for data analysis. How do you know what you should be doing, right? How do you constrain your problem? How do you guide your project from some issue the company is having to some solution? Well, you need a set of requirements, things that are needed of your project, right? And we go through these in depth, ways of framing good requirements, bad requirements, avoiding common requirements-based problems, okay? So we cover that. We then speak a bit about data quality, right? Again, there are so many facets of data quality beyond the ones that you would initially think about, right? We think a bit about data security as a feature of data quality, as well as, you know, accuracy of data points and so on and so forth, all these sorts of things. And we speak about compliance with GDPR and data protection and how that can influence things like audits of the company. We then go on to speak about typical routine tasks that come up in data analysis, right? And this, again, as most things, forms part of a sort of data analysis lifecycle from the beginning of a project to the end. what do you do? What kind of things do you do? What can produce useful results? What processes should you follow, right? All designed to help you when you go back to work to be able to run a project of your own, okay? When you speak about data structures, a lot of things sound the same, right? We speak about data structures in terms of how you can work with them, data in computers, right, which is slightly different from the different kinds of data source. We're going to you learn about databases, right? As a data analyst, you will be interacting with databases incredibly frequently, and you get to learn about how these are implemented, how you can build models that you put into a physical form based on requirements for your project. We talk about normalization. We talk about how to keep a database running well. Okay, so you're already getting massive and massive skills. At this point, we speak about data architecture, policies, standards, all these sorts of things. What constitutes an organization's data architecture, and then we finish up speaking about what does the world of data analysis look like, right? What do you actually do, right? What different kinds of analytics are there? What different kind of problems are there that you can solve, right? And this is all just covered in that first course, in this sort of initial part of your apprenticeship, and it's a phenomenal grounding in the world of data analysis, right? So that's sort of course one, right? Course one. I'm teaching one of these next week, right? Great fun. Following on from this, you go back to work, you put all these things into practice, right? And whilst that is going on, you will have the following sort of webinars covering databases, tools, and techniques in working with data in computer systems, right? This is talking about the various different kinds of database there are, the various kinds of tools there are available, and we touch on, in this webinar, a bit of data science as well. We then move into what we call statistical programming languages. So these are things that you've probably heard of, or you've probably heard that you should be using, but you might not be using because you don't know how they work, or you don't know anyone who knows all these sorts of things, right? You get an introduction to the statistical programming language, of whom R is the sort of most suited to that definition. But then we have things like Python, which is a massive player in the world of statistics these days, right? You get an introduction into what on earth these are, how you can use them, and begin to get your hands on them, get to grips with them, start running projects in them. And we then go into talking about, okay, statistics itself, right? Data analysts are statisticians, right? Statisticians are people who explore and explain things using data, right? It all comes together. And this is when you start to learn about the various descriptive statistics involved in data analysis, and some of the inferential techniques, things like regression, predicting the future, right? All of that comes up in these webinars, right? But this is just to get you prepared for our second course, our second bulk piece of learning that we have, which is that of the data analysis tools, right? You've learned about the concepts, the theory, what this is, what that is, what you're usually going to be doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Data analysis tools is when we start to touch on how do you do those things? What can you use to do those things, right? And you actually run through lots and lots of sets of exercises where you implement some solutions to problems, to questions that you've been posed. Okay, a fantastic course, a fun course. We do a lot of SQL in this course, and we get our hands on Python and R as well in this course. So a really wide range of skills that you come out with. What do? We start off talking about data integration, right? Data integration being using sources of data, or finding sources of the data that will help you solve your problem, and bringing them into your organization so you can use them, right? Or indeed finding them within your organization and bringing them somewhere that you can use them so you can solve your problem, right? These are going to be informed by things like your different kinds of requirements, and you can do it via different processes, things like ETL, ELT, ETLT, depending on the kind of this is all lingo that you eventually learn, right? Depending on the destination location and the kind of data is that you're integrating. Okay, so we start by speaking about that, and then we have a big piece on the most commonly used query language in the world, which is that of SQL, SQL, structured query language. It is in universal use. It is a fantastic tool. You can analyze data utilizing it. You run database systems utilizing it. It is everywhere, right? And we do a real deep dive into SQL because it's fantastic, right? It's great. It's been around for a long time, and it will be around for a long time still. Okay, you'll learn things like, I don't know, select, what select does from concatenation, how to use functions, right? The various clauses, distinct, order by, restrictions using where, your operators, your, oh, I don't know, likes, wildcards, negation. You'll learn how to use expressions, functions, joins, case, just everything you could possibly want to know about SQL. When you're starting off your journey, you will learn about, you will work with, and you will develop skills in, right? It's a fantastic thing that takes up a large part of the course because it is one of the most, if not the most widely used data analytics tool, maybe bar Excel out there. Okay, so we spend a lot of time doing that, very practical. Before we move on to speak a bit about data quality again, right? This is more in the sense of how can you put practices in place to enforce quality data, right? We learn about different factors of data quality in terms of, well, how do we handle errors? How can we profile data? The facets of data quality, such as accuracy, appropriateness, completeness, right? We learn about all these. We learn how we can enforce them. We learn how we can rectify them, okay? And again, featuring in this are things like your security, your CIA triad, right? Which also forms part of good quality data. We then talk about data scale, and this is when that thing that everyone sort of, I don't know, it's a question that you commonly get asked if you work in data. It's like, oh, what is big data, right? Oh, what's this? How do I work with big data? That's what we cover in this data scale module, right? In the modern world of data analysis, the scale of the data, the bigness, I'm going to inverted commas, bigness of the data is a massively important thing to be able to work with. And we talk about how we can work with that, the tools we can use to work with that, what actually qualifies as big data. It's not just lots of data, right? There are many different things that can qualify as big data. It is a terrible term to describe a nebulous concept, let's say, right? But you will learn about that. You will learn how to speak about it logically. You will learn how to manipulate data in big data problems, okay? And we also cover things like our master data management, data migration, integration, synchronization, all good stuff, okay? We then speak a bit about testing, the various different kinds of tests that you want to put in place when you're working with a data system or when you're working on a project. We have things like unit testing, especially relevant in sort of programming tasks. We have integration testing, system testing, user acceptance testing, stress testing, using test decks to analyze how many errors there are in your database, as well as how to evaluate the performance of things like algorithms, right? So we do a real deep dive into testing on this course as well. And we then start, oh goodness me, we then start to speak about different kinds of data analysis software you're going to come out, AKA the actual physical tools you will find yourself using. We of course speak about Excel, still being the most widely used data analysis tool in the world, but we talk about SQL, we talk about Python, and we talk about R. Right? If you ever go and look at well, I'm sure some of you are, if you go and look at a job posting for a data analyst, right? More often than not these days, you'll go to the end of it, you'll scroll down to the bottom and it'll say, oh, we're looking for people who are proficient in one of, SQL, Python, R, maybe, I don't know, Java, and just something like that, right? You will learn what these are, how these work, and how to use them, right? Almost every job posting now is asking for people with one of R or Python skills, and at the very least Excel. All of these we talk about, and of course SQL, right? So we have an overview of these technologies and start to work with them. And we then dive into statistical techniques for data analysis. Again, building on what we covered in those webinars, we're going to be talking about descriptive statistics, inferential statistics, methods for data cleaning, appropriate visual techniques for certain kinds of data. And then we do a dive into linear regression, right? Which is machine learning if you want it to be, right? It is a statistical technique if you want it to be. We cover ordinary least, right? You don't need to know that, right? But we cover how linear regression works, how you can decide whether it's good or bad, and how you can evaluate its performance on data that you haven't seen before, right? Massively, massively useful. But again, getting that grounding in all the things that data analyst needs to know. Okay. Now I'm out of breath. We're kind of only halfway through, right? What are we? We're about 4/6 of the way through or something like that, right? You get to learn a lot, right? And just remember, all this time you're still working at your company, building up skills, working on internal projects, and getting that experience that so many people who want to go into data analysis do not have, right? So where do we go? Where do we go? We go into some more webinars. Our webinars cover making beautiful charts, right? You may have heard of these. There's these things called the Gestalt Principles, and you'll learn about those in your webinar, right? Which essentially describe visual techniques you can use to make graphics better. Okay, things like, oh, I don't know, using contrasts to bring out certain, I don't know, columns in a bar chart, right? Or, you know, these sorts of things. But they are really effective techniques that if a good data analyst utilizes, can really convey a message much better than you know, making a pie chart in Excel and just accepting what it gives you. Okay, this is when we start to do a real deep dive. I need to stop saying deep dive. Where we start to really get into our studio, right? Our studio, which is our sort of primary data science analytical tool that we're going to be using in this apprenticeship. What that is, how you can do stuff with it, why it is fantastic, which it is. It's fantastic, right? And you then start to learn about the world of machine learning, right? That stuff that like scientists and mega technology people do, right? You learn about it. You learn how to do it. It's not that hard, right? Which is the beauty of what I say. It's not that hard, right? It's not that hard to do. It's quite hard to do well, right? But you'll learn how to do it. You'll learn about the different kinds of algorithm. You'll learn about what an algorithm is, right? It's cool. It's fun. I like it, right? You'll learn about it from a number of different perspectives. A bit of a mathsy perspective, a bit of a high-level perspective, a bit of a tech perspective, right? There are many different ways you can look at machine learning, right? Of course, a stats perspective as well. You start to learn about that, and that is a fantastic build-up to our sort of our final course, which is that of the Dell EMC Data Science Associate course. Right, some of you may have been on the sprint where I spoke about Dell EMC Data Science Associate. It's a fantastic course which covers all the skills a data scientist, a modern data scientist requires. There's a textbook behind it that backs the entire thing up that you all get distributed a copy of. And yeah, it gives you a thorough grounding in the world of data science, right? That job that people who earn lots of money do, right? It gives you a great grounding in it and can set you off on a path, you know, from analyst to scientist to, you know, I don't know, AI wizard, right? It can set you off on a path to a really satisfying career working with data, right? What do we talk about? We talk about what on earth data science is, right? We talk about the data analytics lifecycle. Whenever people do any kind of project, they tend to like to put it into a life cycle, right? Data science is exactly like that, right? It talks through how data analytics problems tend to be solved, which is often slightly different from data analysis, but of course it's not a million miles away, right? With data science, you're more often than not, you're looking for a very technical algorithmic solution from the outset, as opposed to in data analysis when you're traditionally, you know, you might just be looking for a visualization as output. You might just be looking for, I don't know, a report about, you know, various average figures as an output. Data analytics lifecycle, you're almost always going to be coming out with some kind of algorithm, right? We then do, we look at R, how we can use R as an analytical tool, which is what it is, right? And we spend a good bit of time going on into these sort of fundamentals of R, fundamental data structures, functions, how it works, how you can effectively do things, running scripts, running R Markdown documents, right? All great things, producing great visualizations, right? Cover all this with R. And we then go into the sort of the bulk of the courses, which is this analytical theory and methods, right? Where we talk about clustering, right? Clustering, some of you may know what this is, some of you may not, right? If I have some data, say it's data about customers and I've got, I don't know, how much they buy, how much they usually buy and how often they come to your website, you might run a clustering algorithm over that to try and find groups of people so you can market them effectively, right? Clustering out, there's a type of algorithm that can look for groups for you without you having to, you know, dig through the data yourself too much, right? You might find that you've got people who buy a lot who come back frequently, right? And you might market them quite aggressively because you know they're always going to keep coming back. You might have people who don't spend much and they never come back to your website. Well, just ignore them, right? Who cares about them, right? I'm not a marketing guru. I don't know if that's what you should do, but that's the kind of thing that you can do, right? So we talk about a technique for doing that, which is known as K-means. We talk about association rules. This is all about it's also known as market basket analysis, right? If you ever go on, I don't know, name a supermarket and click and put some things in your basket and you get a little pop-up that says, oh, people who bought these items also bought this. Market basket analysis, association rules mining, that's how they do that. We have various different kinds of regression, right? Regression for, you know, predicting profit, predicting, oh, I don't know, predicting when a system is going to fail, right? As well as logistic regression, which gives probabilities of something happening, right? What's the probability that someone will win this election? What is the probability that, I don't know, you are going to become a data analyst, right? I could build a model using that data, right? Maybe, I don't know. Okay. We then have classification, which is putting things into predefined categories, right? Say you've got lots and lots of images and, oh, I don't know, you've got lots of images of cats and dogs and you want to be able to, you know, say whether an image is of a cat or of a dog. Classification can do that for you, right? Now there's of course better things you can use that for. Loans, right? Loans is a very common one, right? Classification is used in terms of to decide whether you're going to grant someone a loan or not. Okay, you can give them the label of should be granted a loan, shouldn't be granted a loan, right? Many things like that. We talk about time series analysis, predicting the future, right? Once you've learned about this, you just put your data about the stock market in and there you go. You can predict what stock is going to make lots of money and you'll make lots of money. That's how everyone does it, right? So we talk about all these things as well as, forgot to put that in again, we also have a large piece on text analysis, right? Text mining, sentiment analysis, how you manipulate text, right? Producing visualizations about text, term frequency inverse document, just amazing, brilliant, sort of cutting edge techniques that data scientists use, you get to cover in your data analyst apprenticeship, right? And like I say, if you do ever want to go on to be a data scientist, starting as an analyst is the traditional and one of the best places to start, okay? And we finish with a piece about big data and how you can use big data analytical tools in your analysis, right? Oh, so those are the courses, those are the webinars, right? Now, what now? I have a slide on what do you come out with? What do you get? Well, you'll come out with some really great things. You come out with a portfolio. So whilst you're doing your apprenticeship in work and all throughout the time when you're doing all these various courses, the idea is that you work on projects in your workplace, projects which put into practice these skills that we've spoken about. And at the end of your apprenticeship, you present that to, you know, be granted your qualification. However, you also have a portfolio of work which you can present to any future employer If they ever ask, okay, what experience do you have? Or do you have, I don't know, examples of projects you've worked on? You will, right? Because that's the whole point of an apprenticeship, right? It's to build up a body of work that you can show to the governing body, so that they say, yes, you have done all these things, but you can give those to employers as well. Of course, you may stay with your existing employer, but in future, if you ever move, then you will have a body of work that you can present and show that you know what you're doing, right? So you'll come out with this portfolio. You'll come out with a qualification in data analyst concept. A few of these are changing a bit, right? But you will come out having completed that course. You'll come out having completed the data analyst tools course. You'll come out with an EMC data science associate qualification, right? That's a qualification that you get, right? Which you can put on your resume, your CV, right? You will have it forever. I think it's forever. You'll have it forever, showing that you understand data science. You will, of course, have your apprenticeship, but I have, the key thing that you come out with from an apprenticeship is experience, right? You learn about these things and you do these things, right? That gives you experience. That gives you the most crucial aspect that data analysts or people wanting to go into data analytics do not have, which is experience in that kind of work, right? So that's what you come out with, okay? Right. What do we have? I've got a couple more things to say about sort of typical. So what do data analysts do on a daily basis? You've got all these skills, you've learned about all these various things, you've come out with your qualification. What would you expect to be doing on a daily basis, right? Common tasks for analysts are things like increasing efficiency and automation across the company, right? Where there are old processes in place, inefficient processes in place, data analysts will often come in, take a look at those, identify whether they can be improved in some way, present the case using data, and indeed increase efficiency and automation across the company. We have the implementation of external tools and services to support data quality, right? Using some of this cool technology that we've spoken about in your company to make the company have better data, which it can then use for better analysis. Producing and tracking KPIs, right? Hopefully you know what KPIs, key performance indicators, right? Who comes up with them? Analysts. Develop and support reporting processes, right? This could be, producing regular data reports, reports from company data to indicate how you're doing, how things are performing, right? It could be implementing dashboards, right? Things that are always visible to people to indicate performance. Designing and carrying out surveys to collect new data for analysis. Manipulating, analyzing, and interpreting complex data sets, right? That's what people generally tend to think of, right? And it will form a part of it, right? But that's fun. That's the fun thing, right? That's the fun thing to do, the actual analysis, right? You've got to do all the cleaning beforehand, which takes goodness knows how long. But you then get to analyze. You then get to pose questions to your data and see if you can answer them, right? On a daily basis. The preparation of reports, right? The creation of dashboards, graphs, and visualizations. All these great infographics that you see, all these, I don't know, cool charts that you sometimes see going around on social media and things like that are created by those who are in some way data analysts, okay? And you more often than not get to influence higher up tiers, management, using the various inferences you draw from your analysis, okay? Sounds like a great job, right? I've included a few like data sciencey tasks, right? Which are slightly more technical, but, in a very similar vein, which is, building algorithms, designing experiments, pushing the boat out in your company in terms of what you're going to be analyzing, the use of machine learning and statistical techniques, which you learn about in this apprenticeship, test and select models, which you learn about in the apprenticeship, telling stories using data, perhaps building slightly more advanced visualizations if we really want to, interactive visualizations, right? There's some fantastic resources out there that help you do that. Assessing sources, various data gathering techniques, and yeah, more often than not, being an advocate for data science within your company, right? Finding places that you can use data science to improve the company, right? These are the tasks you're going to do, all of which we speak about in the apprenticeship. And the final thing I'm just going to mention is, where can you go? Well, the answer is everywhere, like everywhere, right? I know we're in this is the year of COVID and all this. Oh, goodness me. The thing I didn't want to happen with the bullet points going the wrong way around is going to happen. But anyway, we're in the world of COVID, right? We're in the world of COVID, which has been awful for the vast majority of companies, bar those companies that are online and make heavy use of data, right? AKA those companies who are the biggest employers of data analysts tend to have done really well in this time, right? So where can you go as a data analyst? Well, there's still an enormous number of companies hiring, right? Anyone who is online or who uses data, which is everyone, tend to be hiring data analysts at this point in time, right? So in terms of common employers, I mean, I've pretty much just got a list of every, oh, there we go. I've got a list of every industry, basically. Consultancies, government, higher education, retail, professional services, insurance, marketing, pharmaceutical, telecoms, IT, I don't know, where else? Everywhere. Everywhere is hiring data analysts because there is an enormous amount of data in the world now, right? And somebody needs to make sense of it. Hopefully, that is going to be you or your employees. Okay? Right, I'm done. I'm done. As far as I'm aware, everyone's still here.
Yeah, you're still there, Thomas. And thank you for that. And you can take a breath now and drink some water. So the passion coming through is evident. So thank you for that. I hope everyone found that interesting and useful. So we've got sort of 10-15 minutes now just to ask some questions. We've got a couple in the chat already, Thomas. So I'm gonna read from them if that's okay with yourself.
No worries.
So in regards to coming from a non-technical background, can I still be, a data analyst? I believe Sahil's asking.
Yeah. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt. I've come across a lot of people in my time who've gone from English degrees, who've gone from, just what, I don't know, working in areas that are non-technical. And who've gone on to be fantastic data analysts, who I've seen go on to be fantastic data analysts, right? Coming from a technical background isn't a barrier because you can always learn technical skills, right? The vast majority of skills a data analyst need are sort of soft skills and a willingness to learn, right? Like communication, telling stories, being able to think critically about things, right? If you are in a job where you think about stuff sometimes, right? And break down problems, that is the skill set of a data analyst, right? All these technical skills and sort of understanding what quantities you need, what to use, these are all things that can be learned. Just that sort of, that character, that kind of person you are, can come from any background, in my opinion.
Lovely, thank you very much. Next question is regarding entry requirements, and so we've been asked this a couple of times. So are there any entry requirements to do this apprenticeship, and what's the duration?
So I know that the duration is 16 months. Entry requirements, I'm an instructor. I don't do the admin-y stuff. I just see people in front of me. So I don't know, right? I don't know. I think it's various GCSEs and stuff like that. But I can honestly say, like, don't take my word as gospel in that regard, right? Please go to Firebrand and the Firebrand website and investigate that, right?
Yeah, there's if you go to the if for any interest in in this program, certainly hop on the web page, and that will direct you into the contact us, and someone will be able to help you with the these questions. As I say, I believe it's it took us sort of 18 months, and they can help you with all of the entry requirements.
I'm on the website. You don't need GCSEs, right? You've just got to do like a test in English and maths, a level 2 functional skills assessment in English and maths to be able to pass it. You don't need to be qualified in any sort of way to go into an apprenticeship, right? Again, they're fantastic for that reason.
Cool. And in terms of the age restrictions, Vidya, I believe it's some school leavers, so
16 and above.
16 and above. So let me just get back to my question. So that's done that one. So if I'm pursuing MSc in Information Management and Digital Innovation and interested in, sorry, so I just want to work out the question there, Shira. If you could pop that in it, exactly what the question is, that would be great. So how is the training delivered? And in terms of the cost, again, that would be something to hop on to the web page and speak to someone on that. But in terms of how the training is delivered, Thomas, I suppose we've got a currently and then in the future answer, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, so it's currently it's all online learning, whereby it's sort of like a mix of webinars and online courses, but these are like live online courses and live webinars usually. So you will still have one-on-one time with instructors and coaches teaching all these various skills. Post-COVID, you'll be in a classroom for the courses at the very least. So yeah, I mean, it's one-on-one class time with an instructor, as well as supporting webinars around some of the sort of trickier concepts. But yeah, I mean, there's a wealth of support available to you.
Cool. And Thomas, why would you recommend this apprenticeship over others?
As in this area or Firebrand?
Firebrand. I mean, you sort of covered that at the start, I suppose, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, Firebrand is just Firebrand gives you the most bang for your buck, I would say. I know Firebrand, in terms of performance, I think we produce the most exceptionally, the most apprentices who qualify with sort of like an exceptional, the highest level of skills or something like that, right? Who pass the exam with the most merit or distinction or whatever it is. So we're fantastic in that regard. Glenn, do you?
Yeah, I'm just about to say, I think you're the person who just delivers the goods, aren't you? Not necessarily seeing the seeing the results.
So why do I think you should come to Firebrand? Because of me, of course.
Of course.
And my wonderful colleagues.
So I should have answered that one for you, really, because of you, Thomas.
Yeah.
And Ed has asked, does all the training take place during the working day, or is it evenings and weekends?
Does all training take place during the working day, or is it evenings and weekends? So usually when you are when you have your training, you're sort of taken away from your workplace, right? So you basically get a week away from work and in the classroom, right? And then whilst everything else is going on, you are working. The webinars themselves are usually only around an hour and a half long. So it's only the courses realistically where you're taken away from being in work, right? If that answers the question.
Cool. Yeah, we try to avoid. We certainly try to avoid weekends with our apprenticeship courses and keep them, in the working week.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and steer a little bit clear of the questions regarding the admin-y side of things, because I think that's probably not fair on yourself, Thomas. So apologies that if I'm chucking things and you're thinking,
that's okay.
On content. So Charlie, what level of coding proficiency is required before starting the course?
None. No coding proficiency is required. Like, we recommend that you have some amount of coding proficiency, but you don't need any, right? The goal of an apprenticeship is to learn. It's not to come in having learned and, kill time for 16 months, right? The goal of an apprenticeship is to learn these things, right? Put the time in your own time, put the time in the class, put the time in at work, and you will learn all of these skills. You don't need to come in a coding whiz to be able to do this sort of thing, right? Like I said, the most widely used analytical tool is Excel, right? You don't need to know how to code to use Excel, right? But you will learn it in the apprenticeship.
And that probably actually answers Sahil's asked a question about a lack of knowledge on data scripting, MI, and they're going to learn all of that during the during the apprenticeship, which I think you've just answered.
Yeah, absolutely.
There as well. In terms of the cost, Again, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer that. Not due to hiding anything. Purely don't know. I don't know the answer, and Thomas wouldn't know either. So
well, I mean,
again,
yeah, but you don't have to pay for an apprenticeship, right? It's
yeah,
unless it's from an employer perspective.
Yeah, doesn't cost you, direct. So again, admin questions, you'd best off to hop onto the website and speak to someone in our team who knows all of these answers.
Get in touch with a Firebrand representative now.
Indeed, that's the right one. And right, so Mike is asking, where does BI come into data analysis?
I mean, BI is one of the most commonly employed roles for data analysts, right? I mean, data analysis it's such like a broad church. That's what politicians always say. It's a broad church, and it allows you to go into many different roles. Business intelligence is generally just using data analysis tools for specific problems, right? So where does it come into it? I mean, we talk about the sort of the business perspective of data analysis, right? But of course, a data analyst apprenticeship sets you up incredibly well to go into a BI role.
Cool. And another one here. Yep. What is the difference between deep learning and machine learning, Thomas?
What is the difference between deep learning and machine learning? I mean, I do know. I'm just trying to think of how to explain this, right? So there's the sort of the broad church of I always use the same phrases again and again. You've got the broad category of sort of artificial intelligence, and machine learning is a set of tools that allow you to basically build functions that solve problems. Deep learning is a specific set of those tools that use what you call neural networks, right, to do that kind of problem solving, right? It's generally what you would call neural networks with lots of layers, with sort of internal layers. You don't necessarily know what they're doing, right? But you know that they're very good at solving problems. So they're basically just like a set of they're a kind of algorithm that allows you to solve problems usually pretty well, but usually by throwing quite a lot of compute power at it, right? So it's just a sort of essentially a class of learning algorithm that you use to solve problems, right? The joys of data science, right?
Well, thank you, Thomas. I think we've answered most of the questions. I believe. So sorry if we're not able to answer direct some of the, say, the admin questions, but without risk of repeating myself, yeah, if you do contact Firebrand and speak to a representative, and not sales ploy, but yeah, they'll be able to help you with a much more succinct answer that's the one you're after. Sana said a Power BI, it might be linked to what Oliver said about there could be a small misunderstanding. We're talking about the software, Microsoft BI, not a BA role.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, I mean, apologies, I answered the sort of business intelligence. But you also have, I mean, you've got tools like Power BI, which are, what are they? They're basically like visual plugins to Excel, right? I'm kind of simplifying what they are. But yeah, I mean, we don't specifically teach Power BI. However, it is a easy to use tool which can build better and more complex visualizations than something like Excel usually can, but you can you can very easily integrate Excel spreadsheets into Power BI, and you can very easily utilize things like R scripts and various other scripts to produce these visualizations. We don't specifically teach Power BI, but it's something that you can turn your hand to during the apprenticeship.
Well, thank you, Thomas. And before we head off, let everyone enjoy their 11s. Thomas, have you got anything else you'd like to say before we end, or?
No, I mean, what do I say? Is there like an email address where if anyone wants to send questions to me that I can answer after the fact?
Well,
that's not my
down
own.
to yourself.
That
That's
could be
down
my
to
own.
yourself. It's I'm sure people would, if people have got any questions, I'm sure they can find you on LinkedIn as well. And we'll be,
Yeah,
you'll
absolutely.
be pleased to answer direct. We'll get one quick one in, Mike, then from yourself. I've used SQL Safari to analyze data sets from complex DRP tables. Would I be overqualified for the course?
Well, I mean, it's not a course, I suppose. It's a 16-month program. You would have a really well-developed set of skills in data analysis already there. There would definitely be some parts that you would be, let's say, relearning, right? However, if you want to be, if you're looking to get yourself into an organization, into a very specifically sort of data analysis role, with sort of guided learning along the way, and being able to develop your skills in something like R along the way, then this apprenticeship is absolutely for you. But yeah, it's sort of a personal judgment, I guess, in that sense.
Thank you, Thomas. And just to, sorry, if you, in regards to if you're contacting direct, if you do have any further questions at all, you can contact us at sprint@firebrandtraining.com, and we'll be pleased to help. So I think that pretty much concludes the webinar. Thomas, thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And thank you everyone for joining. I will now stop recording and enjoy your day. Thanks very much.